Hey, this is Alan.
And this is Bree, and we're the Hunter and the Hippie Podcast.
And on today's episode, we catch up after taking a bit of a break, and you'll hear a little bit of why we took a break. And we talk a bit about answering the calls of the universe and being mindful, and really how the universe puts us exactly where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there, and just whether or not we're paying attention.
And huge shout out to all of our listeners. Thanks for tuning in, especially after this hiatus. If you don't subscribe to us already, make sure to press that button, leave a review, and feel free to reach out with any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss. All of the info is on our show notes, how to contact us. And thank you to Brianna Cote Photography for all of our marketing materials and photos. And then Allison Van, Alllyson, for our intro and outro.
Enjoy the episode, and yeah, we'll chat soon. Hey, Bree.
What's up, Alan? It's been like this time for real a long,
really long time.
long time. And
Way
to
too
our
long.
listeners, I don't want to say sorry because I'm not sorry.
No, I'm not sorry.
But I will apologize for not giving you the heads up we were going on a hiatus. So
we
we'd like
took
to
like a 2-week hiatus that we both needed.
maybe like a few week. I feel like it was like multiple episodes,
All right.
which is like a couple weeks between.
Yes. So I'm all about consistency in life, and this was out of integrity, right? And life doesn't work when you're out of integrity, but you also have to right, like, make sure you're taking care of yourself. And I feel like in these last few weeks there's been a lot of both of us taking care of ourselves.
And we have to honor what is coming up, right?
Yeah.
And it just like there's no point in forcing things as well, and
Absolutely.
summer's busy, man. You guys are all probably busy out there doing things, not listening to us blabber. So hopefully you took advantage of a couple hours each week and got out in the sunshine.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was something I was going to say to that, but I forgot already. Already having brain farts 3 minutes in.
Have you had your coffee?
I'm drinking it now.
Nice.
This is my second cup.
Whoa, they're going for it.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
heard
it.
recently on a podcast, and I'm trying it now? Do you get the afternoon crash ever?
Not so much anymore. I used to.
Okay.
Especially when I was like drinking a lot of soda
Okay.
and eating really like dirty, like a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods.
Okay.
But now, not so much.
Okay. So I heard this thing, I think it was Dr. Huberman. He's the neuroscientist.
Yeah, Andrew Huberman.
Yeah. He said something about something with like receptors. I don't know it. Science is not my old ag. Anyway, doesn't matter. But he basically said try not drinking your coffee until 90 minutes after being awake, because it allows certain receptors to like attach or whatever, and then you won't have as big of a crash from your coffee. And so the coffee comes in and inhibits something, and then once the coffee wears off, then whatever it is causes the crash. So
Interesting.
yeah, we'll see.
I don't know if I could wait 90 minutes, but
Well, I actually realized I was like, oh, I kind of do that just because I have my morning routine. It's not always 90 minutes, but I was like, I wait at least an hour since I wake up. But today I waited 90 minutes.
and you're gonna have to let me know how it goes if you end up crashing.
Yeah, but you don't crash anymore.
I don't. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, occasionally I do, but it just depends. It's more so like dependent on like what I have going on, my sleep I've been doing really good with sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe sort of. At least 7 hours.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially for you.
Yes. And I've been like trying to get to bed. What I do notice, what I've noticed about like my sleep is if I'm not in bed by like 10:30, like I get this boost of energy and then it's hard to go to bed. Whereas like lately I've been like going to bed at like 9:30, 10.
Yeah.
And like I'm tired. And I get in bed and I fall asleep.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but like I notice like if I get, it's like the witching hour, right? Like shit, see, I haven't recorded forever. I'm smacking my mic already. I don't know, like it's like the witching hour, right? Like past this certain time, it's nope, there it is, you lost it. Like now you're awake again, and good luck falling asleep and getting decent sleep. And
Yeah.
I don't know if
So
you can talk
there's
about
a couple things there. From an Ayurvedic perspective, each of the doshas have specific periods in the day. And so Pitta, which is fiery, more like analytical, brainy, is my mic doing something weird? Do you hear that? No. Oh. Maybe I just hear it. So Pitta is the fiery kind of, analytical business, all that. And that is, I don't know what I'm hearing. It is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So basically, and there's some variability there, but basically if you get into that period, your mind's going to wake up. It's going to be active. It's going to be, more in that like go fire stage. And then also we cycle between, and most of us are a bit out of balance. So we cycle between left and right brain. So also if you think about that, I think they say it's about every 90 minutes you actually switch from right to left brain if you're in balance. Yeah. And so there could also be something playing in there where you switch into left brain again, more analytical, versus the right brain, which is going to be more like receptive, creative, and or who knows, maybe the right brain gets your mind going. But
that's interesting. I'll have to like pay attention to that, because I do feel like there's times where I'm more creative, like more able like to write better and get my thoughts down on paper. And then there's times where it's like a complete struggle. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's exciting to hear.
Yes. I'm sleeping.
That you're sleeping.
I'm feeling like the sleep is like helping too. Like I feel like I'm recovering. I've been working out like crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely because there's still nights that I don't sleep. I've been traveling a lot. I was in DC. I was in New York. Heading to California next week and Texas, and it's just like full blown work travel again. And so there's nights where I absolutely haven't been sleeping. And on those nights, like I definitely feel like I'm not recovering the same. Like when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's hard though. It's hard to like quantify.
Is it on a travel day? Like you travel and the next day or what is that looking like?
I don't know. I'd probably have to be more like specific, like write it down but yeah, I don't know.
My prescription, do a nidra on the days that you travel.
Okay.
And you could do it to like help you fall asleep, potentially.
Yeah.
Like do a nidra that puts you to sleep. And even if you don't, at least it slows down the brain a bit. But,
does travel like have an impact? Is that what you're saying? Like,
well, I mean, you're breaking your routine. It can affect you in different ways, right? One, maybe you're not as active on those days because you're traveling, or so you're not like wearing yourself down where you're tired at night. But the other side could be if you're changing time zones, that can affect you. And what was the other thing I was thinking? Or it is more like you're more stimulated, right? And so you're like, you're kind of amped up that day.
Right.
Which maybe would keep you up later that night or, yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't help with like the sounds of the hotel. Right. Like doors slamming and.
Yeah.
Hotel doors slam really loud.
Yeah.
Because they have that like auto close feature for like safety purposes, and
and they say I think you typically you're never gonna sleep as good traveling because you're like in protection mode, right? Like you're in you're more alert, like subconsciously you're more alert because it's a foreign territory. You don't know the people who are around you in the rooms next to you or in the hallways. All those things.
Yeah.
I think it's why I sleep so well in the wilderness.
Because
no people.
Really? See, I'm the opposite. I sleep like 2 hours in the wilderness because I'm afraid I'm gonna get eaten by a bear.
Oh, I got over that fear because I was like, if a bear attacked me in my tent, I'm probably already screwed. So at least I'll just go out in a flame of glory. You know, like I don't have meat. Like if I hear it outside, okay, maybe, but it doesn't mean it's gonna attack my tent while I'm in it.
Right.
I mean, I do wake up. I do move more in my sleep. Like I'll wake up and rotate to my other hip or, the other side or things like that.
Yep.
But when I wore the Whoop strap, it was like phenomenal to see like my actual sleep was like deeper.
In the wilderness. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sleep better typically with someone like when I sleep with share bed. And I think it's that like, oh, I don't have to protect myself. I like, there's someone else there.
Yeah.
Like a safety thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, first thing of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is security. So.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's going to do a lot for you when it comes to all sorts of living.
Yeah. So traveling, you've got a lot of travel coming up. You feel like you're in the flow of life?
Yeah, no, like I don't. I'm trying to be like super mindful, and I don't know, maybe we'll get to this topic or not, but like I'm trying to be like super mindful of, it's interesting because I used to travel a lot for work before the pandemic. And I was talking to someone about this, and like it was great because like you get your status at the hotels, and you get your status with the airlines, and now I'm traveling a lot for work. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm choking.
Yeah. Just so excited drinking my coffee.
I'm realizing like it's not the same. It doesn't interest me as much. And what's interesting about like the status like at the hotels and the airlines, it's funny because you get your status by staying in these tiny hotels in Nebraska and Kansas, and right, it's not these luxurious places. You're not like getting room service and walking around in bathrobes, right? Like it's the Fairfield Inn, and you're worried about bed bugs and people attacking you, right? Like and then it's great when the status comes into play. It's when you take that once a year trip to Maui and you like walk into the hotel and you're like, excuse me, I got platinum status, right? Like you don't know how many nights I had to spend in Nebraska to get here, but like what, I don't know, to me, it's just like, why,
Yeah.
right? Like, why is that necessary? I think there's benefits that come with it. I'm not saying that it's bad, right? I think there's benefits that come with it. But yeah, there's, right, like traveling for work, it's tough. I don't know if you ever did it in like your corporate jobs, but it's tough. And then I feel bad. Like I'm not even traveling a lot compared to some people. I mean, it's funny when you get on a plane, they're like 1,000,000 mile club, people board first. And you're like, fuck, 1,000,000 miles. Like, that's a lot of flying.
1,000,000 miles in what period of time?
I think lifetime.
Oh, lifetime.
Yeah, I think lifetime. I think once you hit 1,000,000 miles, at least on United, you're now part of the 1,000,000 mile club.
You're a lifer.
Yeah, but like
you're there. You made it.
You made it, right? That's that's it. Yeah, you made it. And like, woohoo! You get to board. You get to get on the plane first and wait for everyone else to board.
Okay, I'm gonna sign my kids up for United Club when they're 0 years old, so
right.
they can be in the 1,000,000 mile club.
Right, when they're 18. Right. It's it's funny because like that's what you're, and you have these conversations with your coworkers like, oh yeah, I got my platinum status.
Yeah.
And it's just like, does that matter?
No,
yeah, right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't. Like, oh, I've got my 1,000,000 mile club. I get to get on the plane first. And like, all right, that's cool. And I know people that, used to work for some of the bigger, I forget the word I'm looking for. I don't know. Can't even think right now. Some of these like bigger corporations, and they're traveling daily. Like they're on a plane to somewhere and then they leave and then they get on another plane the next day to somewhere. And like, they're never home. And, and that's how you get to 1,000,000 miles.
Yeah.
And it just, it's not fun. I have zero interest in being in the 1,000,000 mile club, but it's, and like, that's like the total next level. And again, for me, it was just more like, I walked in. So what happened was I was in Nebraska and I walked in and they're like, hello, Mr. Titone. Thank you for being a platinum member. And I'm like, okay. I was like, and I'm like, I'm in Grand Island, Nebraska. What are you gonna do for me? Like, I get a view of the west parking lot instead of the east. Like, like, what does it matter? I don't know. It's just, and so my point is that I'm trying to be like more mindful in the sense of what does matter.
Yeah.
What matters? What's important? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think it's me being a platinum member at the Marriott hotel chain.
Is that how you'll introduce yourself?
Right.
Hello, my name is Alan. I am a platinum member.
I'm going to start doing that. Hi, Alan Titone. Yeah, platinum member, Marriott Bonvoy.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah. All right. Right. Yeah, it does. It does. It gives us this level of importance. I think that's all everyone's trying to do is just feel important.
It's another label, right? It's another identifier that like has nothing to do with like who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you go home to your kids and your friends and your family, do they give two shits that you have platinum status with Marriott?
You tell your kid, they're like, do you know who I am?
Listen, little Johnny, I'm a platinum member.
Wait, it's like, do you remember that Will Ferrell skit? I drive a Dodge Stratus.
No, I don't remember.
He's sitting eating dinner with his family, like his daughter and like wife, and they're just like, it's really quiet and they're very proper, and you just like hear the silverware hitting the plates and things like that. And then something comes up and he's like, I don't know, it says something with work, and then he's like, I drive a Dodge Stratus.
That's
and it's basically like, yeah, how important he is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what we're all fighting for, is right, like to show that we're important.
Yeah, I've tried to be less important lately as I get older.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did.
Yeah.
But I was the same way. Like I wanted to be important. I wanted to feel like needed in the company I worked for. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want having people report into you and ask for your help means you're important. That you
Yeah.
know more, or
Right.
Um, but what? For what?
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I recently read the Book of Joy. I think I mentioned it a few times on the show. Um, and it talks a lot about suffering, and it talks a lot about how if you're suffering, right, how to reduce your suffering is to realize and recognize that everyone else is suffering too, and to help them in their suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if we want to be important, I think that's where, right, we get to be important in helping others, right, and helping others realize that, like, I don't know, this life isn't about getting platinum status, right? I don't care that you drive a Dodge Stratus, right? Like, your kid doesn't care. Your kid doesn't care that you have platinum status, right? Your kid cares that you showed up to the recital. Your kid cares that you took them on a walk. You went for a hike with them. Your friends don't care that, what city you're in next. So actually, they do care because you're not there with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that the universe is constantly like talking, and we do a terrible job at listening. And just in being mindful and understanding, that everyone's suffering, and trying to, I don't know. I don't know. I have no clue. I'm just rambling. I think that there's messages out there that are constantly like, hey, here's a sign. Here's like it's like, give me a sign. And I think those signs are out there, and it's just we're not hearing them, or we're not listening to them because we want to be so important.
Because we're caught up in the things that aren't important, and that distracts us from. Well, and then it's interesting, and I would love to hear you expand on kind of your experience with answering the call of the universe. But I always find it as if the universe is giving us signs, and they'll get louder and louder and louder until you don't have a choice but to listen. And sometimes that can be a disease or illness.
Yep.
Sometimes I think a great example is I had a friend who was wanting to do, I think he had his corporate job, was learning like functional medicine and coaching and stuff like that, and wanted to do it, but just for multiple reasons didn't take the plunge, and just kind of kept plugging along, and unexpectedly got fired from his job. And it was like, you've been saying for 2 years that you want to do this thing, and you're not.
Yeah. Well, now you're going
and
to.
now you have no choice. Like,
right.
It's like, if you don't do it, the universe at some point will like smack you across the face and like force you to do it. So
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that we don't hear the call. Sometimes it's we hear it, but we resist it, or we, I think, can get too like mind dominated, because, and I really believe that comes out of a lack of trust in the universe. When we start to rationalize, oh, well, like, how would that ever happen? Or how could that ever work? We don't ever know.
No.
We don't ever know. You just actually, like, if you can trust and then take the step, start to take action, I really do, like, it's like in The Alchemist, like, the universe will conspire for you. once you start to take action towards
Yeah.
your dreams or the things you want or that you say you want. Like, that's what manifesting is. It's not just sitting back. It's saying and then taking steps towards it. And then the universe conspires because they believe that you really are committed to whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it real quick, but I'm not religious. Let me say that. But I was talking with a friend. Here it is. I found it. Amazing. So I was talking with a friend who is very religious, and I have how I used to feel about religion and how I feel about religion now are very different. And I have people who are very religious. I have people that are just sort of religious, not at all, like all different religions. I'm all about surrounding like myself in, with diversity. And I was talking to a friend just about life and sort of exactly what you're talking about. Like, you're never going to know. And so he shared this with me. It was funny because we were together, and I start like Googling all sorts of like Bible verses and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, my phone's gonna break. I was like, my phone's like, what is going on? Like, if you're in trouble, like, press the help button now. But I don't know. I think it's like in the Psalms, but the saying or the scripture is, "Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path." Mm-hmm. And it goes on. It's a whole big. Let me see if I can get the.
Wait, that's funny. That was in my inner mentor group. I think it was
Psalm 119.
A couple months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Psalm 119, and there's like another number. 105. Psalm 119, 105. And again, your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path. Mm-hmm. And, my friend and I talked about it, and essentially what it is, it's like you don't get to see the whole path. Mm. Right? You just get the light at your feet.
Yeah. And
you just get to see that next step is okay. Mm-hmm. That next step, you're not going to fall off a cliff. Mm-hmm. But you have to take the next step, and you have to keep taking the next step to continue for that light to work. Because, right, we all want this light to just be this bright light to illuminate the entire path for us. Mm-hmm. So we know what's coming. But to exactly what you were saying, we don't know what's coming.
Even when we think we know, we don't. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't tell you how sure I've been about certain things. Yeah. And it turned out differently. And they've been blessings, right? Like, it's Absolutely. All been as painful and hard, and yeah, it's just part of the path. It's just mm-hmm. one step, and it always opens the new doors for whatever I'm meant to experience and lead me to the mm-hmm. next thing.
And that's the thing, is it's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be anything. Mm-hmm. Maybe there are times where it's easy, but right, just because it's difficult doesn't mean that it's not the right path. That's where we get. I think that a lot of us get confused, or like, oh, this is hard. Yeah. But it's still a blessing, and it's still, it's still going to be good. It's still the right way, maybe.
And I think I think there's a differentiator between challenging or difficult when you're resisting the flow mm-hmm. versus challenging and difficult but in the flow. Mm-hmm. Someone said recently, I was talking, he has this big project that he's building out, And some of the people he's working with were like, this is so, and it's his life passion. It is like, he's like, it's his dharma. I was put on this earth to do this work. And people are like, it's so daunting. It's so overwhelming. And it's a lot, it is a lot of work. But he's like, it doesn't feel overwhelming or it doesn't feel daunting when it's in line with my purpose, you know? And I think it's really getting in tune where it's difficult and challenging because you're resisting what is or what the flow or what the universe is telling you.
Yeah.
You're trying to mind your way through it, but challenging and difficult when you're in flow still feels like you still can feel this like contentment with what you're doing because you
Absolutely.
know the hard work isn't in alignment.
Yeah. Yeah, and you feel a sense of purpose and fulfillment. And yeah, I would agree with that. And you know it. You know when you're in flow. I feel like anxiety dissipates. Right? When you're not in your flow, when you're not where you're supposed to be, I feel like there's anxiety there. And
Did you hear that?
no.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I think that the universe is constantly sending signals about everything, about you, your actions, your feelings, your life, your friendships. I think it tells you when you're being selfish, right, or too selfish, right? I think I never want. Right, people. We are meant to be selfish in the sense of, right, we have to take care of ourselves so we can give. We have the most to give to other people. Right, but a couple things. So one major thing happened that is way too far beyond coincidence for me, and so real quick, I'll give a brief background. I live in Erie, Colorado, and it is a very small town, and unless you know Colorado and know this area, when people ask me where do you live, I say Denver, right? Like, it's a small town, and like the thought of like meeting anyone here that like you potentially know or have anything in common with, it's just strange. So I've been seeing a barber, not for the hair on my head, but for my beard, and he's in Erie, and he's from South Florida, and I lived in South Florida for a bit as well, and we're close to the same age, and we've talked in the past about music and just all sorts of things, and life in South Florida, and yeah, it's really just interesting. It's just like a sort of a strange connection, right? Like, all right, that's cool. Two guys end up in Erie, a barber shop in Erie, Colorado, that are from this generally same area. And so the other day, right? So I was in New York. I was in DC and New York, and I got back and I went to see him. And I was telling him, I was like, New York, it's great. The pizza is amazing, right? Like, New York has the best pizza. And he's like, I love the pizza. And then he goes, do you know who has amazing pizza? And I'm like, where? He's like, North Miami Beach, Steve's Pizza. And I look at him, I'm like, what? And so this is what I'm talking about, right? This was a call from the universe. The universe picked up the phone and called me. And like to the layman, it's just like, oh yeah, you're Steve's Pizza. But I was like, Steve's Pizza is amazing. And I knew exactly which one he was talking about, and the pizza is phenomenal. But more specifically, I have some very fond memories tied to that place, and with a very specific friend. And so I haven't talked to her since her birthday in April. And I was like, and I looked at him, and we talked about Steve's Pizza for a moment. And then I told him, I was like, man, the universe works in crazy ways. I was like, I need to call my friend now. And, I haven't talked to her in months. And he was like, yeah, you should do that. And so I got done and I left, and I was driving for work and I picked up the phone and I called her, and she didn't say hi to me. She literally answers the phone and is like, "Why are you calling me?" And I was like, "The universe told me to call you." And she just starts crying. And I was like, "Oh shit." Like, and I'm not going to get into what we discussed, but we were on the phone for about an hour and a half, and I was supposed to call her.
Yeah.
And it was so fucking wild. Like, it was the craziest thing ever. And like, even now I'm still like, whoa, like just blown away. Like, two guys in Erie, Colorado talking about fucking pizza and right. And he had to mention Steve's Pizza for some reason. And right, like the point was for the universe to get me to call my friend, and like my friend needed me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was fucking strange.
Yeah.
So that was a big one.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've also like asked the universe, and it's like handed me what I asked for, maybe not necessarily in, again, the way I've expected, but it was like, oh, this is what I like needed to learn here. Yeah, I think an interesting, like years ago, I really was like contemplating in terms of like a partner, like a boyfriend, a life partner. I was like, do I need to date someone who is like spiritual, right? It's a big part of my life, and it's part of my like job, right? Work, but it's also just part of my like everyday life. It was also when I was like exploring some more like shaman based stuff and like cues from nature, and I like met this guy who was like does nature based therapy, was really into like the spiritual world, like had his own practices. And it didn't work out for many reasons. But what I learned was that I don't need to date someone who is in their own spiritual practice. I just need someone who honors that
you have yours.
That I have mine.
Yeah.
And it's like what I have now in my relationship is, and I say, like, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'm going to talk about it because it's part of my life and I'm excited, and it's a part of my life in many different ways. You don't have to believe what I believe, but you have to honor and respect and let me believe what I believe. And it's like the best, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, even with Andy now, like the way we met was like I literally like the universe lined everything up.
I agree, but our listeners haven't heard that story.
Crazy.
So
yeah.
You have to share it.
Okay.
So I know we are very careful with what we share about our relationships, but
yeah,
please, like, because it is. I completely agree. Like, knowing the story, I'm like, fuck yeah, that's absolutely the universe was supposed to put you two together.
Yeah.
So share what you're comfortable with, and
yeah.
But like the two key parts I think is critical. So
yeah, like so I was kind of dating someone in Cody, and we had planned to go to South Dakota to the Black Hills and camp. And a few days after we planned that, I'd like taken off yoga classes, like set everything up. He's like, I'm just not feeling what we have going on here. I was like, okay, well, I'm still going to go to Black Hills because I've never been. And so I went out there to camp, was out on a Saturday. I was out on this lake on my pack raft, and there was this guy paddleboarding with his dog. And we like kind of tried to pass by and say hi, but nothing really actually, like we didn't actually talk. And then the storm came in, we went to separate parts of the lake. the next day I was there with a friend, and she is married and was like, oh, I've never seen Bumble. Like, let me see, like, show me what it's all about. And I wasn't going to go on.
What is Bumble, real quick?
Bumble is a dating app.
Okay.
So, and I think I talked about this in like earlier episodes, because I talked about my Bumble date of the guy who like
Yes.
threw his hat down.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh gosh. So she was like, oh, I've never, never seen it. So I didn't want to go on it because like the Black Hills are 6 hours from Cody. Like I'm not looking to meet someone 6 hours away. I love Cody. And so I pulled it up and I was just showing her and swiping this way and the other. And then like I matched with some people, and she had gone out to meet up with some friends, and I just hung out and feel like socializing, and ended up talking to this guy, and we were talking about just, what was I doing while I was in the Black Hills. And then he's like, were you at Deerfield Lake at all? I was like, yeah, actually I was there yesterday. And he's like, no way. Like, I was there yesterday. And then I look at the photos and I see the dog, and I was like, were you out on your paddleboard with your dog? And did you see two gals, like one on a paddleboard, packer? He's like, oh yeah, like I was going to say hi, but I chickened out and whatever, this, that, and the other. And so I was supposed to leave the next day because one of the smoke jumpers from Cody had died, and they were starting to have some services for him here. But I reached out to a friend who I was really wanted to support through that grieving process, and she's like, well, I can't hang out for another day. Like, she pushed back when we were going to meet up. So it gave me this extra time to hang out, and we met up for coffee. Turns out he took off from work to go back east for his nephew's graduation. But his dog, who was 13 years old, wasn't eating. And he was like, I can't just leave her with someone, like, and just leave her when she's like not eating and, she's old. So he didn't feel like he could go back for the long weekend for that trip and leave her behind. So that's why he stuck around. That's why he was on the lake that day. He would have normally been working, but had the day off and was out on the lake. And so it was like all these little things that got us to the same place. We didn't talk when the universe set us up.
Right.
So it gave us another chance.
Yeah. It was like, hey, dummy.
Yeah.
Take this opportunity. I did this for a reason.
I did all these things, and you guys were like like 10 feet from each other.
Right.
So yeah, it was, and when I was driving out there, I actually like just had this moment of like, I'm just really open to like the magic of the mystery of life unfolding. And, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen while I'm out here, but like there was this, So
you started dating this guy?
Yeah.
Are you still dating this guy?
Yeah.
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 Anything else you want to share or no?
Oh, I'm moving.
You're moving. Where are you moving to?
I'm moving to South Dakota.
That's pretty fucking rad.
Yeah. No, it's all, and it's just, again, it's like, just, I don't know. There's, what's that book by Mickey Singer? It's not it's not Untethered Soul. There's like another one. And he just, for a year, essentially said yes to everything.
You were like the Yes Man. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With Jim Carrey, Yes Man.
But, it's just, any opportunity that came, he said yes. And I'm not saying that you need to say yes to everything, but if something is presenting itself, come back to that trust, right? And even if it's like you say yes and you're all of a sudden you feel overcommitted and overwhelmed and all of that, there's something that's to be learned there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Universe is powerful. It's lining you up, and I think saying yes to things in my life has really put me in the positions that I'm in, and I'm grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's overwhelming, right? Sometimes you have to learn to say no, but I think more often than not, it ends up working out.
Yeah. And maybe you look at saying no as saying yes to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think we can spend a lot of time on why not.
Mm.
But what if you put that more of your thoughts into why yes?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it goes back to, I think you mentioned this, but it also goes back to that next step. But like we don't want to do things because we're afraid we don't know what's ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we don't know what's ahead, but you never know what's ahead, right?
Yeah.
You think you have this other path defined, and you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's likely going to change. And so why not try something new? Why not try something different?
And I think there's that, and you can get, and coming back to that, where, like back to like an intuitive feeling inside, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
again, sometimes we say yes because we rationalize all the reasons, right? We should be doing something. And so sometimes it's like, is what feels scarier? So if saying no feels scarier, maybe that's the path to explore.
Mm.
Or if saying yes feels scary, that's the path to explore, because like our ego is trying to keep us safe, but in a way that is very limiting oftentimes, because it's
Mm-hmm.
coming back to the ego is keeping us safe and protecting us from the matters of I'm important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and saving face,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, look how good I am at something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I can't be seen as a failure or
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, ego's a double-edged sword, that's for sure.
And it wants to stay in what's known,
Mm-hmm.
because like, and yes, you're right, we need ego. The ego
Mm-hmm.
is what allows us to be aware.
Yeah.
um
It also allows us to push, right?
mm-hmm.
Like our when, right? Like it's that hold my beer mentality, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's your ego, right? Like it's oh, I could do that. Watch
Mm-hmm.
me. Watch. I can lift more weight than that person. I can travel the world. I can get to 1,000,000 miles. I can, right? Like it's those things that do push us. That's good, right? And that's the ego saying, like, yeah, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also detrimental. And I can get to 1,000,000 miles. Yes, you can. But why? Why do you need to get to a
Yeah,
million miles?
I think
Right.
that's the differentiator, right? Is like, for what?
Right.
The why, the
Yeah.
intention.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is it goes back to your why. It goes back to,
Mm.
when when you're answering the calls of the universe, when everything's coming up, is it leading you down that path and of what you want out of life? And if you're saying yes to a bunch of things, when you say yes to something, you should be also asking yourself, is this taking me closer to my why?
Mm-hmm.
I think we've talked about this too, right? That general direction forward.
Yeah.
But is it taking me to my why? And if the answer is no, you probably should be saying no to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if the answer is no, it's likely causing anxiety. It's likely causing turmoil and other issues.
Mm-hmm.
And you said intuitive, and I love that you said intuitive, because I think our last episode that we released was about intuitive eating.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm still not 100% sold on the intuitive eating concept,
Yeah.
and some of the concepts behind it, I love that we had Jenny on, and she's an amazing friend. And I even told her after, I was like, still not sold 100% on it, but there's aspects of it that I love, and what I've applied, the concepts that I've applied from that is I think that we have lost touch with our intuitive living. Right? And that, right, like to the intuitive eating point, like you can eat all the Oreos you want. Eventually, it's not going to feel good. And I agree with that, right? Like your body saying, hey, I need something other than Oreos, please. And, our intuitive living is not getting your platinum status at the Marriott. And it's not living for, working your ass off to go on vacation for 2 weeks a year. Right? Like the beach sounds amazing to live on, but if you were just stuck on the beach your entire life, it'd get boring. It's just like the Oreos. Right? Your body, your mind, your life eventually says, all right, another sunrise on the beach. Right? Like, are you being fulfilled by that? And maybe there's some people that are, but what does intuitive living look like? And I think that all comes back to, right, your why, right? Having a strong why, and then saying yes to the things that are going to get you closer to your why, saying no to the things that are, getting you further away from your why.
Well, I have a little breath we can do very quickly
All right, let's
around that.
I can do some breathing.
And then journal prompt.
All right, sounds good.
So you can close your eyes, or if you're doing anything that you need your eyes open, just soften the gaze. And take just a couple natural breaths to settle into your body and notice how you're feeling right in this moment. And then bring to mind, you can either imagine or sense an experience or time in your life that felt very right for you. Maybe easy or peaceful, or maybe it was challenging, but there was just something inside that felt like it was right for you. And visualize or sense all of the details, maybe even seeing yourself, the look on your face, who was there, where you were. And as you think or visualize this experience, shift awareness back into the body, noticing what you're feeling. Notice how this experience or time of your life feels in the body. And allow the experience to drift away and just be left with this feeling of rightness. Knowing that you can come back here, that you can use this feeling to guide you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if they're closed.
Thanks, Brie. Yeah, grab your journals and I don't know what to write about. Write about write about your why. Do you have a why? Do you know your why? And are you listening to the signs of the universe? Are you being mindful in the moment? Are you slowing down enough to answer the phone? And we're all not doing that, right? It's not that Bree answered the call for her love, right? Like she happened to be mindful in that moment, and it's paying off. And I happened to be mindful in the moment of hearing the call for Steve's Pizza. But there's plenty of other moments where we miss. But that's the thing, is we just have this moment, and we can just keep capitalizing on this moment and see like what this moment has to offer. And maybe we're going to take advantage of it. Either way, it's not right or wrong. So maybe right about that. Anything you want to add to that?
That's beautiful.
Cool. It's been awesome catching up.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
Until next time.
See you soon.
See ya.